Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and salam sejahtera. Today's video in STA 108 video presentation will be me and my teammates will be discussing a very specific topic called the impact of sleep duration towards stress levels. Now, before we begin our journey, I would like to introduce you all the team members that will participate in this video presentation. The first one would be Muhammad Ahmad bin Fakhur Zaman, which is me. Next, Muhammad Irfan bin Hazlan. The third person, Shazwan bin Shahrudin. And the last member of our team is Muhammad Aziz Akmal bin Muhammad Shahrizal. Now, before we go in deeper about this video's presentation, let's look at the table of contents. In other words, the elements that will be included in the video presentation. So the first part would be the introduction, where we'll be discussing about the background, objectives, significance, and any limitations that appears during our study. The second part would be the methodology. In this part of the video presentation, we'll be discussing about the data descriptive and graphical and both graphical and numerical techniques. The third part of this video presentation is the data and the interpretation. In this part of the video presentation, we'll be discussing about data analysis, descriptive statistics analysis, and correlation and regression analysis. And the last part of the video presentation is the conclusion, where we summarize our report. So with that, let us begin our journey by uncovering the first part of this video presentation, which is introduction. Muhammad Aiman, will share with you the background, the objectives, significance, and as I said before, any limitations appear during our study. In terms of the background of the study, um, in our report, it is extremely long, but for this video presentation, I have summarized it for you all. Now, the background of the study is sleep is a crucial natural body process that provides a break for the body and the mind. This study investigates the relationship between our lifestyle and sleep health, focusing on different occupations and physical activities. Sleep is essential as it reduces body system activity, energy conservation, self-repair, and brain maintenance. Individuals have a varying sleep needs or their amount of sleep duration, with newborns needing 14 to 17 hours, infants 12 to 16 hours, young children from 10 to 14 hours, school-age children from 6 to 12 hours, teenagers from 8 to 10 hours, and adults, which is 18 years and above, up from 7 to 9 hours of sleep. Sleep deprivation, uh, or in other words, the lack of sleep, caused by various factors can lead to sleep disorders and chronic conditions. Long shift workers in professions like nurses, doctors, soldiers, firefighters, and police officers can experience severe sleep loss. Sleep deprivation can lead to health issues such as high blood pressure, memory issues, mood changes, weakened immunity, diabetes, heart disease, and low sex drive. In other words, our background of the study is mostly explain what is sleeping and why is it crucial and the effects of having lack of sleep. So the background of the study is just a general knowledge about sleeping. So based on the study that we are doing right now, we have discovered there are three objectives of the study, or three objectives that we can found from the study. The first one would be to determine the average age of respondents, duration of sleep, and the stress levels. The second objective to determine the shape of distribution of the stress level and duration of sleep, and the final and third objective of the study is to show the relationship between the stress levels and the duration of sleep. Since we have found the objective of the study, we must understand what is the significance of the study. So what makes this study so important is that this study highlights the importance of sleep duration for healthy lifestyle. It is found that workers with lower sleep duration or sleep deprivation experiences high stress levels leading to high blood pressure and BMI. This data raises awareness about the negative impact of short sleep on human quality and the environment. Now, as for the limitation that we have encountered during our study is that this study only concludes the sleep deprivation affects a person's stress level, ignoring other factors like occupation, physical activity, BMI, heart rate daily steps, and sleeping disorders. These factors can affect both physically and mentally, with insomnia leading the highest stress levels, but other sleeping disorders also in other words, lack of sleep can lead to higher level of stress, frustration, depression, and anxiety.
Okay, for our next part, which is methodology, it is including data descriptive, graphical technique, and numerical technique. Firstly, for data description, the data that we use for this group assignment is a form of secondary data group. The reason is we gain it from the internet, specifically from the Kaggle website. Secondary group data is a research data that has already been acquired and available to the researchers, while primary data is information gathered straight from its sources. The data that we obtain have two variables, which is sleep duration and stress level. The independent variable, which represent the x-axis from the data that we use, is sleep duration, while the dependent variable that represent the y-axis is the stress level. The sample size of this data n is 374 people that have been examined to determine the relationship between sleep duration and stress level.
Now I will explain briefly about the graphical technique in our data. So what is graphical technique? So graphical technique is a provide image of the data which help in the understanding of patterns and the relationship between process parameters, which we can know it as each variables. And graphical techniques are frequently used as the starting point for any problem solving. And graphical technique is also important that we can both organizing both of qualitative and quantitative. So next, I will show the type of graphical technique that we use in our data to read it properly. So first, histogram. So histogram is a bar graph like presentation of data that bucket of range classes into columns along horizontal x-axis. So the height of the rectangle represent that we can look at the picture represent the distribution frequency of the variable. And next we go to the scatter plot. And the scatter plot uses dots to represent values for two different numerical variables, which mean for we use a quantitative data. The dots in the scatter plot not only report the values of individual data points, but also pattern when the data are taken as a whole, which mean the data in the scatter plot can show a strong positive linear, moderate negative linear, such like that. And the last one we use is box plot. Uh, Box plot has another name which is also not a box and a whisker plot. There is a graph summarizing a set of data, and the shape of box plot show how the data is distributed, and it also shows any outliners. A box plot is a graph also that give a visual indication of how data sets 25 percentile, 15 percentile, 75 percentile, minimum, maximum, median, and mode or value are spread out and compared to each other. That so that we can look at the picture.
Next, for the numerical technique, it is including measure of central tendency, which is mean, median, mode, and second measure of dispersion, which including range, variance, standard deviation. Third, measure of position, minimum, maximum, first quartile, second quartile, and third quartile. Fourth, the correlation analysis, which including Pearson's product moment, coefficient of correlation, and coefficient of determination. And lastly, regression analysis, that including linear regression.
Next, we move to the next part, which is the data and interpretation. Data and interpretation consists of three different subtopics, which is the first one is data analysis, descriptive statistic analysis, correlations and regulations analysis. So the first topics in the data and interpretation is the data presentation. For dependent variable, the known in this study, which is stress level, consists of 374 respondents. So the sample size is 374. Maximum stress level that we observe in the study is 8, and a minimum level that we observe as known as the stress level is 3. Meanwhile, for individual variable are known as the duration of sleep. They consist of same number of respondents, which is 374. Therefore, sample size is 374. So the maximum duration of hours that they sleep is 8.5, and the minimum duration of sleep is a 5.8. Next part is the descriptive statistic analysis. So for this part, we use the both variable that involved in this study and put it inside the IBM SPSS. So from that, we can find out the more details about the both of variable, which is consists of their means, medians, mode, skewness, and so the others too. So this is a list of more details about the both variables. Next one is a histogram. We use a histogram to analysis the each and the mean of the average of the each. So for the first graph, we can find out that the mean average is 42.8 years old, and the median and mean age is 43 years old. Next one, we use box plot to find out the shape of distribution for the both variable. The main reason why we use a shape of a box plot because box plots make it easier to find out the shape of distribution. For the other details like mean, median, and mode, we can find out the details at the IBM SPSS. So let's go to the box plot. So box shape distribution for stress level is positive skewness or right skewness. Meanwhile, for shape of distribution for sleep durations among 374 respondents is a negative skewness. Next one, we use scatter plot. From scatter plot, we can find out the correlations between stress level and sleep duration. From this study, we can find out the both variable correlation known as a negative correlation. Negative correlations shows that both the x and y axis vary in the opposite way. Therefore, if the x-axis is increased, our stress level is increased, so that the y-axis is decreased, our sleep duration is decreased. The last part of data interpretation is declaration and regression. So our value that known as correlation value is 0.811. So that we could see that sleep length determines 88.1% of a total stress level, while the remaining 11.9% is determined by the other factor. And next part, we move to the regression. So for regression, we could see that constant y equal constant is 80.826, and slope for both that consists in this study known as p is negative 1.809. So general regression equation known as y equal to a plus bx. That's the regression equation in this study, which is y equal to 18.2x6 minus 1.809x.
So lastly, we go to our last section, conclusion. So conclusion, we prefer back to our objective from this assignment 108, which is the from the result of histogram show that 43 years old people are the average age among of the respondent in the data. And secondly, in the data that we shared, the relationship between each variable has shown from the scatter plot that more increased stress level, more decrease the duration of sleep. And lastly, for the conclusion, the shape of the distribution of the stress level and the duration of sleep shown the skewness in the box plots, which is to the right, skewness to the right for the stress level, and skewness to the left for duration of sleep. So that's all for the conclusion. This is the references, 10 references that we use to share and complete the data or the assignment that we want.